Hello and welcome to the Duluth News Tribune's Bulldog Insider podcast. I'm your host, Matt Wellens, the Bulldogs hockey beat reporter at the News Tribune.
And I'm Zach Schneider, the television voice of Bulldogs hockey on My Nine Sports.
Our guest this week on the podcast is a former St. Cloud State Husky. He's the cousin of former Bulldog Dan Molenaar. And sorry, Joe, the old man of the 24-25 Bulldogs. Welcome to the podcast, Joe Molenaar. Hi, Joe.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having me.
Olivia Wallin actually joked in the post game this weekend following the women's game. She's a fifth-year senior. She's in her grandma's era at the women's program. Tova Henderson, defenseman, was talking about the crazy minutes they had to play this weekend on the blue line. You were one of 12 newcomers on the Bulldogs this offseason, but the only transfer. The rest were all freshmen that are at least I think 3-4 years younger than you or more. Some of these guys. What's it like transferring to such a young team? It's got to be a little nice because there's a lot of new, fresh faces, but some of these faces are very, very fresh. Can't grow beards yet.
Yeah. Well, I think for me, I've obviously been playing college hockey a long time, so the change up to going to such a young team, like you said, at 12 new faces, and 11 of those are freshmen. So really, just a lot of new life. Those freshmen, it's kind of brings a different joy back to the rink, and I think for me, it's kind of made me feel a little young again. like a freshman myself.
What are some of the things the freshmen like to do where you're like, I'm too old for this? What is it, the Murdov list or something like that? Yeah. What are some of these things these kids like to do that you're like, I'm too old for this?
I think it would probably be, maybe one, the scrolling on their phones. That's one. And then two, kind of just their lingo, the way they talk. I don't know if I could, I guess, repeat it, but it's just a lot of terms, I guess, I'm a little unfamiliar with.
Is there a benefit to having so many young faces? Obviously, they're all talented, right? And we knew that about this group coming in, but it almost seems like when you have a group like this, what they don't know is almost an advantage about how hard college hockey is. And obviously, they're learning that as they go, but it feels like when we've talked to guys like you, the older guys on the team, Dom too, they're amazed that they can just come to the rink and want to play hockey and not really worry about, all the things that surround it. Is that kind of a benefit to the older guys? You mentioned bringing the joy back to the game. I think Dom has talked about that too with this group, that they just come and they love playing hockey, and that's kind of rubbed off on him this year.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. It's anytime you can get youth like that, it's I think for them, especially at the beginning when we went through some rough patches, those guys were coming to the rink, happy, excited, they're just happy to be playing, right? And so I think just over time having that many new faces at the rink has been, a really good benefit for us.
How do you balance wanting them to just be young and have that experience and that exuberance that they bring to the rink versus needing to maybe rein them back in? Scott Sandelin has talked to us about you being a good voice on the bench and in the locker room for this team. So when they do need something to be said, how do you balance that as an older guy on the team?
Well, I think, I look at the last two weekends, for example, the St. Cloud weekend, we got a big win on Friday night. And after playing in this league for a while, you realize how hard it is to win on Saturday nights. And I think, coming back to the rink on Saturday morning, it's really loose, and which is really good for a group like us, to have that from the freshmen, but also gets to a point where, we have to understand that playing St. Cloud on Saturday after beating them on Friday is going to be even tougher, And similar to this weekend, CC had a chance to sweep us at their place on Saturday night, and that's going to be a challenge for any team, right? Having to fight with your back against the wall. So I think the challenge really is just, making sure that everybody understands the difficulty of those Saturday night games in our league because really and truly anything can happen in those nights, and there are definitely situations that are tougher to play in.
Did Scott Sandelin, he's talked a ton, Joe, about your leadership, and he actually mentioned before this last weekend against Colorado College that, everyone talked about Kleber and Plant and everything being out, and Loney's been out, and he said, the guy that might be, against St. Cloud, they said the guy we were most fortunate to get back was probably you because of the leadership you bring to the bench. What did Scott Sandelin, when you were going through the process of hitting the portal and finding a new school, did he tell you what your role was going to be? Like, did he come to you and say, hey, we're looking for leadership? Or is that something that you kind of sensed was needed when you got here and you grew into that role?
No, I think he was pretty upfront about it and told me kind of what he wanted me for. And I think from the jump, he said, I mean, there's going to be 11 freshmen here. So, I mean, that's a large number. That's about as big as it gets in college hockey. So I think coming into it, I knew kind of what it was going to be like. And I'd been in a few leadership roles at St. Cloud in my time there. So I think it was just kind of continuing to do the stuff I'd built on there. And I guess finding ways to help these freshmen transition be a bit smoother.
Have you felt a difference since coming back from the break? I mean, obviously the Alaska weekend was tough results-wise, but even that St. Cloud series on Saturday, you get up 3-0. They score 2 quick ones to make it 3-2. Feels like in the first half, that was a situation where this team not folded because there was a lot of fight in the team despite the results in the first half, but it seemed like a situation where things could snowball really quickly, and they did in the first half. And then Colorado College kind of puts a whooping on you on Friday night, but you come back and win on Saturday. Again, something that we didn't see a lot of in the first half. Have you noticed a marked difference with the team and how you respond to that kind of adversity so far in the second half?
Yeah, 100%. I think, again, these last 2 weekends, like the growth for this group has been huge. I think our record doesn't show what we believe we have in the locker room, and the second half, like these first 2 weekends of NCHC play that we've had, I think have really showcased what we've been building this whole year. And credit to the staff. This is what they've been preaching, and I think each and every week we've gone in with the mindset of just continuing to build. And for our group, just these first 2 weeks have been huge.
You played 4 years at St. Cloud State under Brett Larson, a Duluth guy who worked for 6 seasons under Scott Sandelin. Now you're playing for Scott. This is actually a listener question from John on Facebook, and I had the same thing. How are Scott and Brett? How are they similar as coaches? And then also, what are some of their differences?
Yeah, similarities wise, I think they're both really intense. Both of them want to win, but I think like their biggest quality and what I appreciate the most is just how much they care for their players, like on a personal standpoint, right? Like I think at times in college hockey that can get lost, and both of them have been awesome just as people and supporting their players, and obviously in hockey, but more importantly in life. So from that sense, those guys have been just awesome to play for.
How are they different?
I think with Lars having had like a longer or a more recent time of being like the player's coach or something has made him maybe a little bit more. Like I catch him trying at times. We'd catch him trying to, I'd say, avoid like the extra talk with players, right? Like the players coach that would kind of just chop it up with the players. At times he would try, I guess, to avoid that. But you could see that he still had that in him and wanted to do that. So, and then from a coaching standpoint, I think Lars is really I don't want to say military, but he's really, really sticks to his systems. And then that's, a credit to why St. Cloud has been so good in that sense. Whereas Sandy is, wants you to play maybe a little bit more free, I guess, and kind of learn and make mistakes as you go. And I think that's kind of, why with Sandy's teams, you kind of see their trajectory going, all like this, straight up all year, because players just keep continuing to learn and grow.
You've only been in Scott's program for a little over half a season now, so it might be too early to answer this question, but the public gets to see him in a much different light than the players. And it's always interesting to see players who have come through his programs, because a lot of them have said the same thing that you do, that he cares so much about who they are as people, not just as players. Obviously, he wants to win. That's the point of the program. But what is it about Scott that the public doesn't always get to see? I'm always curious about this from a player's perspective. And obviously, some of those conversations are private, but what is it about him that you don't always get to see on Friday, Saturday nights when he's manning the bench and he looks like one of the most competitive, intense guys that you've ever seen?
Yeah. Well, I think, and kind of like I said in the last question, just he's much more personable than he may come off, right? Like, I think all of us players know that if we ever need anything, we could go right in his office. And I know that's what he would want us to do. And he encourages camaraderie, I guess. Maybe you guys wouldn't be able to see that from just Friday and Saturday nights and the intensity of it, but really and truly just wants the best experience for his players. And I think that's like a really special piece of him as a coach.
Are there quirks that Brett Larson, that Lars used to have, that now playing for Scott, you're like, oh, that's where he got that from?
Honestly, I think where I notice it most would be like in drills and like the terminology for him, because they'd have drills and they're called almost the exact same thing. Maybe Lars changed one little word when he went to St. Cloud, but yeah, I think they're the drill names are something I always notice.
Take us through how you go from 4 years at St. Cloud and end up going to UMD here for your 5th year. Take us through the re-recruiting process that guys now get to go through when they enter the transfer portal.
Yeah, I think obviously, like at St. Cloud, like the 4 years were the best years of my life. Like I had a blast. Obviously met almost all my best friends there. So it was a really tough decision when it was kind of like if it was time to maybe look elsewhere. But I think a big piece for me was the academic side, and it was something I was searching elsewhere. I'd graduated from St. Cloud, so I was looking to kind of start my grad program somewhere. And I wasn't sure if it was going to be playing hockey or not. I didn't really know. I went into the portal kind of blind. I was just going to see what happened, and I got lucky. I think about 5 minutes after I went in the portal, if that, Luke Lohay called me and had said he heard something from the coaches here and just was wondering if I was interested. So I obviously told him, of course, and then through the next couple days, maybe a week, was talking to the coaches a bunch, and the decisions in the portal got to be kind of quick. Coaches, like, they need, if this plan doesn't work out, they need to be ready to have the next one, right? And so yeah, the process went kind of fast, but I think for me, as far as like a top college hockey program in the country, had the exact schooling that I was looking for, it just worked out really well.
You're doing a MBA, right? Master's of Business. Was that possible at St. Cloud, or did you have to look for another school for that?
So my goal ultimately was I'm going to need, next year I'll be living in the cities where I'm from. And for me, doing an MBA was going to be a 2-year program rather than one, because my undergrad was biomedical sciences. So I needed some prereqs in the business side of stuff to, I guess, fully get into a master's program. So starting that at Duluth worked, because next year I can either, take through Duluth online or move down and transfer to the U. So, which worked out pretty slick, given it's the University of Minnesota school.
I think anybody who considers the schooling aspect of it has to understand it. But did any of your buddies at St. Cloud State look at you and be like, Duluth, really? That's where you're going next year?
Honestly, no. Like, everybody was so good about it, like, including the staff, I think. And that's like, there's no animosity at all, like, especially like with last weekend. Like, it was just really good to see everybody. And during the time of recruiting, no, I didn't ever once hear that. I don't know if it was said elsewhere, but no, everybody was really good about it, happy, and understood like the life side of it.
A lot of Bulldog fans talked smack online to St. Cloud fans that they swiped you. That side was not as understanding, but that's fans. So for you, the decision, you're going into the portal and where you were going to go really was more of an academic decision than a hockey decision. A lot of people we talk to, that there's sometimes it's half and half, sometimes it's a little more hockey than anything. For you, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, if you didn't find the right academic situation, you might have not continued playing hockey, huh?
Yeah, right. No, that's true. I think I was at a point where, I don't really know. Well, hockey for me, really going into last year was year to year. It's kind of like, just see what happens, right? Just kind of enjoy it as much as I can. But the COVID year opened up like a chance for me to get some more schooling taken care of while playing hockey. So really, it was just going in the portal and seeing. It was blind. I didn't have anybody reaching out to schools beforehand. It was just we'll see what happens. If it works out, great. Otherwise, just go and find school elsewhere. So, no, I couldn't be more happy that I ended up here and it working out this way.
The NCAA is actually considering giving everyone, all student athletes, a fifth year of eligibility, not just the red shirts or players who received a waiver, which is kind of what COVID ended up being for everyone from 2021. With that, there'd be no more hardship waivers, no more red shirting, a lot less paperwork, which I feel like compliance officers would be thrilled with. What are your thoughts on giving everyone a fifth year of eligibility? Because I think the component that I've really liked seeing over the last few years is talking to people like you and other hockey players. How many of them how many people are actually using that for academic reasons? I think everyone else just thinks it's going to be sports related, but we've seen, players go get their masters of education, that will be allowed to be principals some days, a lot of MBAs, a lot of people going for masters of business. What are your thoughts on adding that fifth year?
I think everybody should be able to get it. I think for me, I was able to reap a lot of benefits from it. Now at the same time, there's like the flip, and it's when freshmen come in, especially like in my case and the people in my class, like you end up kind of playing behind some older guys for years, right? And that's, for college hockey and for teams, it's great. Like it makes sense that it raises the level of play. But I think overall, like student athletes getting the chance to take a fifth year, and if they use it the right way, right, like not just getting in classes to get out of them when the season ends, right, but I think if it's used the right way, it can be a big benefit, and it's a lot of people can help boast their resume, I guess, through college athletics.
I'm going to say you're a rarity, and especially in men's college hockey. It sounds like you're somebody who doesn't have the dream anymore of hockey being your life's first profession, right? It sounds like you're in a stage of life where you know that this might be the last year of competitive hockey that you play, and it sounds like you're committed to the NBA and that path. At what point did that flip for you? Because I feel like you get recruited by St. Cloud State, you get on that Division I team. Every guy has that dream. Did it flip for you like while you were at St. Cloud, before you got there? At what point did you focus more on what's going to come after hockey while you're here in school?
Gosh, I don't know when that point would have been. I guess just through my time here, and obviously having played with a lot of people who have gone on to play pro and hearing about the lifestyle of it. I think a huge part of my love for hockey is like the camaraderie of the room and being around the guys and being able to have like your best friends. And at times, especially at some of the like lower pro levels outside of the NHL, that gets lost. And I think just for me, I don't know exactly what's going to happen after the year, but it's been really like mind cleansing in a way to just be able to focus on a year at a time, have like all of my attention and devotion to this team and winning, and I think that really helps with my play and just my overall enjoyment with being around the guys.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, because Scott talked about that in the offseason with Dom James, because there were going to be a lot of questions surrounding him last year before he got hurt. Was he going to come back for a senior year, or was he going to turn pro? And Scott said a couple times to us, he's excited for Dom because he knows this is it. He can just come back, he can be fully invested, and then go on to whatever's coming up. But he's not going to have to think about that decision point. So has that made it? It sounds like it's made it more enjoyable for you that you can just be 100% invested in what's happening in Duluth this year and worry about, what comes next. But some of these younger guys, it feels like in our conversations, there's always that question about how long are you going to be in school? When are you going to take the next step? And Scott's argument is that you have to kind of be where your feet are to get the most out of this experience.
Yeah. Well, no, and you said it, it's a tough thing to do, to be present, I think, especially with social media and all of that stuff going around. Everybody wants to get the fast track to wherever they're going. But I think with my situation and scenario, it's been really nice to be able to just enjoy. And I had a similar mindset last year too. It was just a year at a time. Like if you told me at this time last year this is where I'd be, I wouldn't have really believed it, right? So it's just cool how your enjoyment level can raise just based on being able to stay in the present and not being too focused about the future.
Listener questions. I put out the the call. We got a couple for you, Joe. As I said before, St. Cloud fans eerily silent now about you after sweeping them a couple weeks ago here. We got to the one from John. He wanted to know about the similarities and differences between Brett Larson and Scott Sandelin. Actually, John asked about the coaching styles, and you mentioned like the drills, and you mentioned the systems. Any other differences in coaching styles between Brett and Scott?
I would say they're more similar than different. There's a lot of similarities, just both based on humans and intensity of the game. But no, really, I think they coach very similarly. They run the bench really similarly. It's made the transition for me pretty easy.
I was going to say, this is like the ideal situation, right? You're entering your 5th year of college, and maybe you go somewhere else and you have to learn. I didn't even think of like new lingo for the drills and everything. You're learning new lingo, new systems. It was pretty easy for you here.
Yeah, no, it was really smooth. Everybody was great, and the coaching styles between the two has definitely helped me.
Troy asks, what's different about being at St. Cloud compared to Duluth? What are some of the differences between the two cities and the two schools?
I think from a city standpoint, I think the biggest thing for me was, when I got here, Lake Superior, like being on the water, being able to swim until mid-October. We would go every day, my roommates and I think that part of life for me was lacking, like just being able to go outside and do stuff, be outdoors. And I think Duluth has really given me a chance to do that a bunch. From a hockey standpoint, there's a lot of, I'd say there's pros and cons to both at both arenas. Like if one thing's better somewhere, then the next thing's gonna be better at the other one, right? So I think that's kind of to be expected from two of the top programs in college hockey. And yeah.
Let's back up. You were swimming in Lake Superior until mid-October?
Yeah. For the first couple weeks of October were when we called it because it was getting a little cold. But we were doing that. We were going daily. We'd go in there for 5-10 minutes in and out.
That just replaced the cold plunge at the rink or what?
Yeah. No, we found it really refreshing. It was nice. And the weather was good. I mean, at least through September, it was pretty warm. So we were in there a bunch.
We did have a good fall this year.
Yeah, it was a decent fall. Another one from Troy. How close are you with former Bulldog Luke Lohite?
Yeah, Luke and I we were childhood best friends. Grew up playing together on the same team every year. Our dads were really close. Well, families in general were really close, and it was really full circle and cool for me to be able to play with Josh at St. Cloud, Josh Lidke, who was kind of in the same boat with us, and then. Unfortunately, Luke wasn't here when I was, but he was a huge part of the recruiting, and now I was just on the phone with him for over an hour last night. It's he's even though he's not here, it still feels like he's a part of it, right? He meant a lot to a lot of people here, and obviously left a really good impression and legacy. And I guess I'm just trying to carry on what he had been preaching here and just help push in the stuff that he wanted.
This is interesting because Luke was never going to be on this year's team. And you said he was the first phone call you got when you went in the portal. He was a big part of the recruiting process. So he was recruiting for a team. I mean, I know people stay connected to the program, but he was actively recruiting you to come play for a team that he wasn't going to be on.
Yeah, I think, Luke loves this place. Adores it. He talks about it all the time. And I think he really wanted that experience for me, for one, and just felt that it would be a really good fit for me. So both Luke and Steve, his dad, I've been in constant contact with all year. Steve's been up here for a number of series, and including the Arizona State one. He went there. So yeah, just the both of them have been a huge help for me, and have made another reason this transition was as smooth as it was.
We saw Steve I've seen Steve at almost every NCHC city, including some of the less glamorous ones. I'm glad he went to Arizona State. I felt like I deserved it when we went there. It's like, man, I've been to Kalamazoo and blizzards and ice storms to Oxford. Steve's also done that. So good for you, Steve, on taking the Arizona State trip there. Some quick hits here as we close out the podcast. These are going to be long, Zach. We were making fun of Zach earlier a little bit about his long questions. I have long lead-ups to a few of these quick hits here, so they're not so quick. A few seasons back, I did a story on where to eat in the NCHC where I asked coaches to give their picks. Brad Schlossman of the Grand Forks Herald and myself also gave our picks. Brad and I got hammered by St. Cloud fans for our picks in St. Cloud, partially because we ended up picking chains in St. Cloud. I picked 7 West, which isn't like a big chain, but it's here in Duluth. And again, I just liked the location. I stayed at the Kelly Inn. 7 West was right there. They're usually open late. Once basically waited out a snowstorm overnight at a 7 West in St. Cloud. Brad picked Chipotle, which is one of 2. He picked 2 chains. To be fair on that story, he also picked Skyline Chili. Brett Larson, actually, I claim he stole my pick. He picked White Horse. What would be, first off, are Brad and I pretty bad for picking 7 West and Chipotle? Could we have done better on that in St. Cloud?
Well, I wouldn't say you did bad. I ate at both those places plenty of times. So, but there are definitely other options I would suggest.
Yeah. So what would be your pick for the place to eat in St. Cloud?
Well, so this place is only open until I want to say 2 or 3 p.m. It's a kind of a lunch spot, but it's right downtown. It's called Dulce's. That would be one of, if I could really, in Minnesota, if I could go anywhere for lunch, that would be one of my favorite. That would probably be a top 3 choice for me. I went there most game days. The staff and everybody there was so great. Loved when our team would come in, and so I would either say there or now I don't know how big of a chain this is, but Giliberto's, it's a Mexican place. I had never heard of it before I got to St. Cloud. They have 2 around there. Both those were really good. They're open late. Really good burritos. Just a good spot, and kind of gets you away from the classic Chipotle and Qdobas.
There's a UMD fan contingent that really loves Val's in St. Cloud. Is Val's near the top of your list, or?
Yeah, no, Val's is definitely really good. I had it a handful of times. Really greasy, time and a place, especially when you're in season.
Not on game day.
Yeah,
right?
No.
That's probably exactly why that particular UMD contingent likes it on a Saturday morning. So.
It's a Sunday spot for us players.
What was the first? Dulce's?
Dulce's, yeah.
Dulce's. What do they all have, and what was your order there?
I would go. So they have their Philly cheesesteak, really good, but my favorite part about it was they'd have a special every day. Comes with super chili. I love both those things, and it's kind of always fun walking in there and not having a clue what you were going to get, right? So, yeah, just a really good spot.
This has been a fun question for us to ask transfers at UMD who've come from other WCHA or NCHC teams. When St. Cloud State played UMD, what are some of the cliches or things, and maybe this is different because Brett Larson's there, but what are some of the things like St. Cloud would say about playing UMD that week, and how accurate now have you found those to be, like being on the other side?
Well, I would say that like when I was on St. Cloud, we always loved coming to Duluth just because it's a beautiful city. But I would say the cliches for us from St. Cloud were that the ice was going to be soft, and I'd say that definitely holds true. But a piece of that is in St. Cloud, the ice is like concrete. It's so hard. It's really hard to dig into it, and not to mention how big the sheet is. So I think, yeah, the ice would probably be number one.
What was it like the first time now hearing it from the other side? You're at UMD and everyone's talking about, the coaches and teammates are talking about, okay, we're going to St. Cloud. What are the cliches that UMD used, and how accurate, like, did you have to correct anyone, or what was that like hearing that for the first time?
So like when we were going to go to St. Cloud?
Or when you were playing St. Cloud, I guess. Yeah, you guys haven't gone to St. Cloud yet. You closed the season there. But yeah, what are some of the things you guys hear about? St. Cloud's coming into town. Here's the cliches that come out that you got to watch for.
Well, from that standpoint, I guess it's like eerily similar, because I think both programs know, and with their head coaches having coached together for forever, both teams are going to play very, very similarly. And so, to be honest, it was just more of the same over here. Was when I was at St. Cloud, we heard it's just gonna be about will. Like, it's 2 teams that are gonna play the same. Like, you're not gonna win it based on structure or systems. You're gonna win on who wants to win more. And it was basically the exact same message here. So I think both teams have a lot of respect for each other, and I think through that you see very similar play styles from both schools.
What's the rivalry like between the programs? I've talked to plenty of people over the years who view St. Cloud as UMD's biggest rival, and they won't back off that. I grew up in Duluth. I guess I never viewed St. Cloud as the biggest rival. Minnesota, Wisconsin, back in the WCHA, North Dakota. But more people than I would expect view St. Cloud as UMD's biggest rival. Is that true now on the UMD side? Was it true on the St. Cloud side? What's your view of the rivalry?
Well, yeah, I think it's true to an extent. I think a piece of that is in college for me, like starting even with my freshman year in COVID, we were playing the Bulldogs 8 times. Like when you're playing a team a third of your schedule, like they're going to become one of your biggest rivals. But the rivalry as a whole, I think, is like best way I just could describe it is it's like a respectful rivalry, if that makes sense. Like I think there's a lot of respect for both schools on both sides. A lot different of a feel than like say when North Dakota comes to town, right? Like it's different from that standpoint. Obviously the compete level is really high and we've had some really good battles on both sides, but I think it's, there's a lot of respect and similarities amongst the two schools and makes that a really fun weekend.
What are you looking when the team closes the regular season at St. Cloud? What are you looking forward to that weekend? Going back to St. Cloud, what are you looking forward to the most?
Yeah, I think I obviously really enjoyed my time there, so it'll be good just to see everybody again. I think that'll be their senior night, so that'll be fun. Obviously, some of those guys in that senior class are some of my best friends, so to be there for that and it's at the end of the day when that time comes, like I think what's going to be most important for our group is just going to be winning those 2 games and getting 6 points. So doing my best to not make that weekend about me, right? Like it's not a personal weekend. It's just a weekend where the Bulldogs need to go and get 6 points.
That's going to be you trying to convey that message to your teammates more than anything, right? Because we heard it from a few of the guys this last week. They really wanted to win those 2 games for you. We didn't hear it from you. We heard it from the guys. What's been your favorite road trip in the NCHC over the years?
Gosh, there's some really good ones in the NCHC. Arizona was unique. I'm glad I got to do that.
Yeah, I feel like we just got to take Arizona after Arizona State. Yeah. Of course, some teams aren't getting down there in as nice of weather as we had when we got there. Now it's cold for Arizona State is like 50s, but yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Kalamazoo, that one's always fun. There's a really good restaurant I've gone to there. I can't remember what it was called. But that was super good. And obviously playing in that rink, the atmosphere is really cool. Different than a lot of other college places. North Dakota is always fun. Just the rivalry piece of it. Playing at the Ralph, all that's really fun. And I'd say those 3 have been probably the best weekends. But you could say that about any school in our conference, right? Like there's perks and pros to going to each one of them. So
when was the last time on a road trip in your hockey career that you and the boys went and hit up the hotel pool and were jumping in the water and doing cannonballs and stuff like that? Like that's the thing that was like at Arizona State. Bruce Siski and I were up on the hotel we were all at, had a rooftop patio and bar and pool, and Bruce Siski and I were working in the sun, and the guys all show up and start jumping in the pool, and I'm like, I don't think I've ever seen the team in my 11 seasons with the Bulldogs and even all the years covering Northern Michigan, teams never hit up the hotel pool. When was the last time you did that on a road trip in your hockey life?
Prior to this year, it actually might have been a while ago, but it's funny the timing of this question. We were just doing it like 4 days ago or however long that was in CC on Thursday. So our strength coach actually had kind of preached like the benefits of going in the pool the days before a game. So just loosening up muscles, especially after a flight. So we were doing that not too long ago, but I wouldn't say it was like the same vibe as it was at the rooftop pool in Arizona in December. So
that's a new thing now, hopping in the pool. That's Chase's thing, huh?
Yeah, that's and I think it works. Like a lot of us felt really good after, and so
all those years the parents told you to get out of the pool before game days, and now the strength coach says it's actually a good thing. So
there you go.
Thanks, Mom and Dad. We could have won a few more games.
I was going to say youth hockey days. I've been at enough hotels too. I've seen youth hockey teams take over pools. Youth hockey days, the pool was a regular thing, right?
Oh yeah. Well, it really depended on the group and who was kind of in charge, because like you said, there are people who were we're very anti-chlorine in pool, but no, I personally would encourage it. It's fun.
Kids, listen to Bulldog Insider play this portion of the podcast when your parents tell you can't go in the pool on a hockey road trip.
Did you have to be the old guy and tell the younger guys to get out? It's time to get out of the pool, or did somebody else do that?
No, no, I'm not like that.
Joe, you kind of talked about it already. You're going to continue grad school after this year. What do you want to do whenever your hockey career, whether it's this year or next year, whenever it is? What do you want to do with life after hockey?
Well, I think for me, it's the fun part about my scenario is I don't really know. I know I want to do something with med business, so whether that's med device, something along those lines, maybe getting into sales, I don't really know. But I think the part that I'm most enjoying is just being able to keep going to school, keep doing that every day, and at the same time just have 100% of my focus on hockey and this season, and not having to worry too much further down the road, and be able to kind of start making some of those decisions this spring.
All right, we'll wrap it up there. Joe, thanks a lot for joining us on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
The Bulldog Insider podcast, you can find more episodes, including our best of from the first half of the season, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Like us, subscribe, and rate us. For more Bulldogs hockey coverage, visit DuluthNewsTribune.com/Bulldog Insider. Subscribe to gain access to all of our coverage all season long. Zach, what does the TV schedule look like this week? Men host Denver at Amsoil Arena. The women are at St. Thomas in a series that starts tonight. If you're listening to this podcast when it comes out on Thursday, it's a Thursday-Friday series in the Twin Cities.
Yeah, no TV locally for the women's series at St. Thomas, but that'll be on Big Ten Plus. And then we've got both men's games against Denver Friday, Saturday on My 9 Sports.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll catch you next week.